Alright guys, starting back with the budget F-Body build here. So I am going to real quickly take off this harmonic balancer bolt while it's still a decent time to do so. So almost every time I've ever taken one of these off, I've had to use heat. The impact gun is not enough, but I also don't have like one of those really good M18 Milwaukee ones, so I just have like a corded. So I'm gonna, I don't know if this one, I have two blow torches and one of them I think is out. I think it's that one. I'm gonna start, I just put a ton of heat onto the head of the bolt and then hit it with the impact, and usually it'll come out. And then after I get it out, it's gonna just go like that. After I get it out, I'll show you how to use a harmonic balancer puller, although a lot of people probably don't need that information. I'll do it because I'm doing it anyway, so I'll record that. But right now I'm going to heat it up, and then I'll see if we can get this off of here. So alright, let's give this a shot. My blowtorch isn't working too well, so hopefully it'll come out. Give me a minute. All right, so I miraculously got it out with this, but it took a lot more heat than that, and then I had to loosen it and tighten it and then loosen it again, but it eventually came out. So yeah, usually if you just have enough heat, for some reason my blow torches are like not putting out the normal amount of heat. I don't know, because they feel full, so I don't know if it's because it's super cold out here. It's probably like 20 degrees outside, so I don't know if that affects them or not, but moral of the story is I got it out. So next I'm going to set up the harmonic balancer puller and show you how that works. All right, so it's been a few hours. I went to the gym and stuff. So I now have this set up. This exact puller is, what is this company? OTC, maybe? Part number 6667. Damper puller. I will say, if you're gonna mess around with LS stuff, and you're probably gonna do it often if you are, just get the exact puller for the job. I have tried to pull them before with like 3-jaw pullers, things like that, and it never works out well. And this one is very nice because if you can see there, it grabs onto some recesses in the actual harmonic balancer. And so there's like a push rod, which this comes with multiple, it's for multiple applications. There's a push rod that'll go all the way down into the crankshaft. And then you have, it's a sort of like a 3-jaw puller, but it's different because it sits on there. And then you have your other part, which has a 3/8, it accepts a 3/8 ratchet. So all you have to do is just tighten it down. And once it starts getting tension, oh, give me 1 second. All right, so now it's got tension on it. I thought it did before, but it doesn't. Now, like you can see, there's a little bit of lubrication here. These usually aren't that stuck. So, I mean, I put a little bit of lube on it usually, maybe like some like WD or a little bit of like motor oil. But there's some left on there, so I'm not too worried about it. And this thing doesn't get used all that much. But you'll start to tighten it, and it might be hard to see, but that balancer is coming out. And you just want to be careful once you get super far out, because the balancer is probably like, I don't know, 10-15 pounds, so it'll just fall off, and so will your tool and everything. So once I get this off, I will show you what we got. As you can see, I got it off. So if you're going to use that tool, make sure that you use the longest push rod. At least in my experience, every LS engine I've taken a harmonic balancer off of, it takes the longest one, and you don't have to switch it or anything. Just put it in there and then tighten it. So next I'm gonna take off the 10 mil bolts on the front cover so we'll get a better idea of what the inside of this looks like. All right, got the bolts out, so let's take a look here. Pretty sure there's a good spot where I can pry on it. Maybe not, I'll just push behind the gasket up top. Okay. Grab this off. So one thing to want to remember if you haven't done this before is make sure you take the bolts out of the bottom. There's bolts that go in the bottom through the oil pan. So not awesome, but expected for 200,000 miles. All right. I'm gonna take the oil pump off and inspect that, and then we'll probably get to the valve springs. Not sure how well you can hear me, but I don't want to keep turning my heater off and back on. So as you can see, I took the rockers out, and as I can see, the push rods look pretty good. And this side loosened it, but I'm gonna place them over there and then take out all the push rods and inspect those, make sure they're all okay. And if they're dirty enough, I'll put them in the ultrasonic cleaner I have over there. And I will probably also, well, I was going to do the box and retainers, but they're actually really clean. Well, besides not as clean. Maybe I will do those too, because I mean, it's free and it's already out. So, and also I didn't do oil pump yet because I kind of forgot about the pickup tube. So we'll have to, I'm going to try to do the push rods, or sorry, the rocker springs first, and then we'll drain the oil, flip it over, look at it under there. But like I said, we're probably just going to put the new oil pump on, the oil pan that I need to switch it to, and that pickup tube, and call it a day. All right, guys, so I have the valve spring compressor set up here. I actually have this one on this cylinder right now because I just trial runned it to make sure it worked before I filmed it. So I'll show you how I'm doing this. I know I said before that I was going to use compressed air to hold the cylinders open, but after the trial run I found that that wasn't necessary. So first thing I'll do, which I got this from Amazon, this is a very cheap one. I do recommend, like, if you're doing an overhaul on an engine, definitely do this when the cylinders or the cylinder heads are off. It's really stupid doing it with them on. It's not stupid, but harder, I mean. So if you were going to take the heads off anyways, definitely do it then. So as you can see, this is going to push down on our springs here. I put some lube here. I just took some engine oil from outside of the, or from inside the engine. Put it on this stud. So that's ready to go. Now, if you're gonna do this, don't either use compressed air or don't do it until you turn the engine over and have the piston at the top of the cylinder. So the smart thing to do would be to go through the firing order, but I'm just going to go in a row, just that way I know which ones are done. That might not make sense, but let me go grab a flashlight. So what I'm going to do here, which if you do the firing order, then obviously just go through the firing order and you'll know which one's at the top, but you still need to verify that it's at the top. So I'm looking in the spark plug hole, and the way you can tell if it's coming up, obviously there's air going to be coming out of this hole as I spin it over, but just keep watching until, see, I just felt air hit me. Keep watching until you see the top of the piston, which I see it right there, and then go up until it stops. So once it stops, at least on this engine, the valves are going to hit the piston, so they cannot fall in. Now, it's a good idea to do this even if you are using the air, because on the slight chance that for some reason the valve stops sealing, it can fall down in the cylinder, and then you're definitely have to take the cylinder head off. All right, I'm back. So 13 mil wrench. Usually got to use a wrench. Obviously the stud's a little too long. So I have found that the valves will hit the piston, but in order to do this, make sure that you have a really good magnet. Now, is this the easiest way to do it? Definitely not. And if you have a really old engine, say it's very worn in, sorry, engine's bouncing around a lot. If you have a really old engine that's worn in a lot, I would recommend not doing what I'm doing, because I have had engines that have a lot of miles on it, a lot of crud, that these keepers and retainers become seized. Now, obviously the more seized they are, the harder that valve is going to push into the top of the piston, which could damage the top of the piston. So one thing you want to remember is that like sharp edges do not want to be in the combustion chamber, because that's like a hot spot. So if we like push that valve into there, we could bend the valve, or we could dent in the top of the piston, which is more likely what would happen since the valve is harder. And that can cause detonation, which we don't want. So you can see I got my magnet here. I'm pulling the keepers off. And as you can see, the valves don't have enough room to fall in. So those keepers come out, and then it's time to loosen it. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that I might clean these. I decided against that because I wasn't thinking. When you do this, if I had to clean them, I would have to do all of this twice. So I'd have to take the tool completely off and reset it every time. And I don't feel like doing that. That's a ton of work, and I think it's good enough for what I'm doing. So you'll keep loosening it. Obviously it'll go higher this time because there's no keepers in there to hold the valve springs. So once I get it pretty loose, I'll start, not loose enough apparently. Okay. Once you get it pretty loose, and pull that up a little bit, and then this tool you can kind of just move it out of the way, which I do like. So we're going to pull these out. So that's your spring, retainer. I'm going to set those on top of the engine. The next step, for me at least, if you're going to change your valve seals, which I would recommend if you're already doing all this, they just pull out like that. As you can see, in the garbage. And I have new ones. So these are, I'll show you the part number here, sorry, set the springs down. These are BTR valve stem seals. And these only work for single springs. Dual springs will not work. They are a different design, but see here, pretty much the exact same thing as what I took out. So what I do is I have a cap full of oil. I dip the top in the oil like that and set it back on. Push it on the valve. Do the same thing with the other valve, well, the seal rather. And the cool thing about these ones that I like is that the piston, or sorry, I don't know what I'm even saying. The spring will push the seal down, which will not allow it to come off. When you start to do like dual valve springs, things like that, depending on the engine, sometimes you have to machine this boss and put a different size seal on there, or the seal is just a different design, which it wouldn't have the bottom part usually because the diameter of it's too fat to fit the dual spring. Now you can just take the spring, push it on there. Now these springs I got from Richard Holdner Performance. They came with my camshaft. He just said that they're 550 lift springs. Probably good enough. Not sure if they're name brand or anything like that, but they'll work. And so I have to loosen this a little bit more. We're just going to do the opposite. And the only thing I don't like about this tool is that it's hard to align it, and sometimes this little thing, this little part of the tool, will get stuck on the threads when you're using it. And so we'll try our best to line it up good, which from my view, they aren't very lined up, but close enough. We can kind of put some pressure on it while we're tightening it down. Sorry, I've lost this wrench like 3 times. So, we'll tighten it down. It's shaking a lot. Tighten it down. Actually, it was lined up pretty well. Now, because of the way I did it, I'm gonna have to use the magnet to pull the valves back up to get the retainers on. If you had air in the cylinder, these would the valves would just stay at the top, so you wouldn't really have to screw around with all that. And it pretty much just bottomed the tool out. It hits right here, and there is a spacer that comes with this tool. You can't see it, but it's under here where the rocker shaft deal bolts. You could take that out and you would have more compression on the valve spring, but I don't really need that. So take our magnet and pull up on the valve and get one keeper on there. And the other. And then let it sit. I did have to finagle this a little bit when I was letting pressure off. So definitely not as streamlined as if I put air in it or if I was doing it off of the engine. Come on. Let me clean it and get it unstuck. It was kind of my fault because I accidentally pushed down on the valve, pinched the valve and the retainers in there. So now that those are lined up, we will loosen our tool. Now, as you can see, it looks like how it started. And so I will do the next 6. By the way, I took the push rods out. All the push rods that were on the driver's side of the engine were darker. The ones on the bottom from passenger side, some are lighter, some are darker. Do I need to put them in here? No, I don't have to, but they're going to be out of the engine for a little while, and I'm out here, so I might as well use the ultrasonic cleaner, which I've done before, and it works really well on parts like this. So you can see it's nice and hot. Try not to breathe that in. So I use Simple Green HD in this with water. It's probably like a third of it is the solution. And sorry, using my hand to put it in here. And it works insanely well. I have videos on my TikTok, although they're not very interesting, about it, and I could also make a video about it, and I will show the results on this. But for example, like this is a piston from my 6.2. If you would have seen what this looked like before, you'd be amazed. So it works insanely well, but sometimes it takes a lot of time to get it to go. So I'm gonna throw those in there, and then at least at the end of this video, I will show what they look like. All right, so I wanted to show you. These are the same push rods. See, they're perfectly clean. They have some residue on them because when they come out, they're like really hot, and then kind of leaves a little bit of a residue, but you can wipe them off. So there's that. And been working over here. All the springs are on. You can see. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drain the oil and flip it upside down. Sorry, I got the heater going again, but took all the bolts out, got her flipped over, oil strain, pop this up. Let's take a look here. Yeah, not as glorious as the top end, sure, but it'll work. Right. That's good. And I think I can tap this out. So I'm going to take off the windage tray, take off the tube, pickup tube, take off the oil pump, and pound this out. Once that's done, I should be able to start putting my parts on it. All right, so I tried to hit the dipstick out. This is the end of it that was inside of the engine. As you can see, it didn't work because it's broken. So that is like where it protrudes out of the engine. I just used a drill bit until it went in and it started spinning it. But I do think there's a little piece still left in there. And so I used this paper towel to try to stop stuff from getting in there. But otherwise, I took the windage tray off. It looks good. Oil pump is also off. Looks pretty good as well. Although I have a new one that was only like 80 bucks, so I figured I would do it. And I know what people are gonna think, it's like the while you're in there syndrome, but. All right, so moving on to the camshaft. I took off the gear and took off the retaining plate. I have a new one that's on the other engine that, the engine only ran for like a little bit. So I'm gonna take it off the other engine because that one's brand new. So since the engine's upside down, I won't need the wooden dowels, but say you're doing this in a car and you don't want to take the heads off. The trick is you take some wooden dowels and stick them through these oil passages, and they pretty much touch the lifter and keep it from falling. But since the engine's upside down, I don't really have to worry about that. So I'm going to put the gear back on, and then I'll spin the cam so all the lifters are pushed down. And then I should be able to pull the cam out and put the new one in. Okay, so this is one of the big no-nos of doing this, is looking at the cam bearings, which they don't look bad. I'm not too concerned, but as you can see, there's all the lifters, and they're all happily up. So we will grab the camshaft and put it in. All right, so I just went inside and grabbed the camshaft because it was inside my house. Obviously it's not in here, but it's the Lowbuck truck cam by Richard Holdner Performance. And so, to my understanding, this is actually a Truck Norris NSR cam. At least that's what I read online. And the specs look the same, and I'm pretty sure when I watched his videos, the dyno results were pretty much exactly the same. So the reason I picked this camshaft is two reasons. I wanted to be cheap, so I didn't want to have to get crazy valve springs. So I sided with this one because you could run 550 springs with it. Now, since I'm going to boost the engine, I do know that I probably should have some stronger springs, but I can always change them in the car, or, you know, eventually I think it'll get a different engine anyways. The other reason versus the, I actually don't know, I don't remember what he calls it, but So he has two truck cams. One is pretty much the NSR truck Norris, and one is like the truck Norris. So obviously the one that is not the NSR is bigger, and I did not do that one just because this one makes more torque. So theoretically it should be able to make more boost quicker, and I kind of plan on buying a bigger turbo than I probably need at first, so it would help with spooling if I do a smaller cam. And yeah, I think that's really it, just the cost and the turbo spooling. So the cam does not even come with a cam card or anything like that. Just opened it up. Looks beautiful in here, nice and oiled up. Let's see if there's any markings on it. I don't see any markings. So if you didn't know, I believe this camshaft is $199 on Richard Holder Performance. You can get it cheaper if it's on sale, but I did not get it on sale. And I don't recall exactly how much I paid because I did get it with the springs. I think it was more than $200, but it wasn't much more. I want to say like maybe $240, $230, something like that. I'll probably put it on the screen how much I paid. So I'm going to clean this up and lube it up and stick it into the engine. All right, so got the cam here. I wiped off most of it, just not where my hand is. Sometimes I'll use like once I get it in, I'll use a screwdriver to help guide it in the rest of the way. And sometimes I'll also like put the timing gear on because that can help give you some leverage. But for now, I'm just going to start it and then probably use the screwdriver method. No, this is just some like generic engine lube. Get it on most of it. That should be good. Alright. Since I'm probably gonna have to two-hand this thing, I will just get my hands dirty now. That way I know it's all lubed up. And hopefully it goes in okay because it was a little hard to get out. So let's see how this goes. Especially I think this one might be a little bit more difficult because the lobes are bigger. Hopefully have no issues. Yeah, I have no idea why it was so hard to get in there in the first place, but I'll wipe the lube off from the packaging and put my lube on it. I know you've probably seen this a million times, but I can't make a video without showing me putting the cam in. I think that would be crazy. So, and yeah, I know I don't necessarily need the assembly lube because the lifters are used, but I'll do an oil change on it. All this will come out in the oil change, so not a big deal. Screwdriver all dirty. And there it is. Camshaft's in. So I'm just gonna get the retainer plate off the other engine, throw that on here, and I might call it there just because to get the rest of the stuff off that engine, I'll have to use the cherry picker, lift it up, and do all of that. Plus, I only have one engine stand, so I'll have to kind of do it upside down because it'll be on the cherry picker. So I think that'll probably be it for this video. It's like almost 5 in the morning, so I'll go to sleep and I'll try to button up this motor tomorrow, and then hopefully we can have it in the car the next day. So thanks for watching.